From New York, it's Saturday night.
Hello and welcome to the Not Ready for Primetime podcast. We're Gary Seath and Brad Robinson.
And you're not.
This week we're talking about Season 1, Episode 22. Wait, that's
Yes.
right? Okay.
It is. It's correct. So far, so good. Keep going. You're on a roll.
All right. Okay. With host Elliott Gould.
Yes.
And musical guests Leon Redbone.
Yes.
Harlan Collins.
Still yes.
And Joyce Everson. I don't get a yes on that.
Why?
Okay. No.
Come on. Finish it off strong.
This show originally aired on May 29th, 1976. Brad?
Gary.
This is the return of Elliott Gould.
I hope you like singing. This episode was like Elliott Gould was sitting at home a couple weeks ago and saw the Madeline Kahn episode and was like, oh, really? You're on.
Yeah, there was a lot of singing.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Not a whole lot by Elliott Gould. Do you think so?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think,
All right, well,
I mean, we'll get into it. I mean, this is the end of a 4-week run.
Yes.
And it was supposed to be the season finale. So it should have been the end of the season. And I think you can just tell, especially by the second half of this episode, that the tank is empty and everybody's kind of tapped out. And I when we get into it, you're going to start talking about how many songs there are and how there is a lack of sketches. So that's why I said, yeah, there's a shit ton of singing.
Well, also, the sketches that we do have are very long. Like, we have a bunch of long sketches.
They are. Some of them are very good.
Some of them are.
Some not.
Some of them are not. Yeah.
But yeah, should have been the season 1 finale.
Yeah.
Which makes sense in the scheme of things. Like, you know, they come back and it's not surprising that you do Buck last week and Elliott Gould this week, and you finish with 2 of your more accommodating and easy to work with and more game hosts. Right. Especially at the end of a long run, here are 2 guys that you can count on to help with the heavy lifting. You know, this isn't a Raquel Welch. This isn't a Diane Cannon. These are people who will bring a lot to the table and help out the cast. So on paper, this is a no-brainer of who you end your season with.
Absolutely. It's the end of a 4-week run. It's a good way to end your season.
Yeah.
Because you have experience with both of these hosts. And with Leon Redbone also returned, which I thought was funny.
that one might have been a little bit surprising. I mean, I'll take it, but yeah.
And Elliott Gould, which was, it's fun. Should we just get into it?
He still delivers. Yeah, let's jump on in.
All right. So the cold open starts at a wax museum.
True.
Which threw me off. So Chevy walks in to a wax museum where Lorraine and Jane and Gilda and I believe friend of the pod,
Neil Levy,
are all playing different wax figures. Joan of Arc, I believe, is who Lorraine was.
Really?
I thought so. Yeah.
Okay.
And then some Victorian figures. And then Chevy flashes them all and blows a whistle. And then goes up to Gilda and kisses her on the neck. And she slaps him. He slaps her back, which I was not expecting. And then she slaps him so hard he falls off the stage and does Live from New York.
Yes. Kind of reminiscent of last week's cold open where Lorraine shoves Chevy off the stage and does his fall. But yeah, the wax museum bit was interesting. Like, I'm not sure how funny this sketch is, but it's short and it gets right to it. Everything you just said is what happens, and boom, boom, boom. I think this is one of the quicker cold opens, it felt like to me, that we've had.
Yeah, it's pretty fast, but it's kind of, I guess it's silly, but it's whatever.
What I didn't get is, Chevy comes out and he's wearing the sunglasses and the patented flasher overcoat, right?
Yep.
But he's wearing jeans underneath of it, no?
Yeah. He was.
So I thought he looked like a flasher, but then I was like, why is he wearing jeans? It just threw me off. I didn't get. And the whistle was weird, that he would flash and whistle, like he needed both.
Right. I mean, they're wax figures.
Yeah, and it was like weird if he was playing, if they were or not, because he does the funny thing with Neil Levy, who Neil's holding the tissue. So when he like grabs the tissue out of his hand and then blows his nose and puts it back, I gotta say they all do a great job, especially with that whistle of not breaking. They all kept their freeze.
Yes. Because that whistle was jarring. For whatever reason, there was a whistle. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then Return host Elliott Gould comes down for his monologue. Brad, what was the first thing you wrote down when you saw Elliott Gould? Yes. Well, the
first thing I wrote is N ... There's Paul.
Ah, okay.
I think what you're going for is what was the second thing I wrote down, which was I missed the mustache and I missed the cigarette.
Close.
No, okay. Because those are the first two notes I wrote.
Yes. The first thing I wrote was, why did he just hand a banana to a member of the audience?
Because he's funny, whimsical. He's Elliott Gould, baby.
Then I wrote down no mustache.
Yeah.
Which was just disappointing.
And then my third note is write into a song, ? Damn it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, not even, there's no setup or anything.
I mean, Paul's already at the piano. This isn't one of those let the host walk out and have him shuffle in behind him. Nope. He's already sitting there being like, let's go, guys.
Do you think maybe Paul just started playing on his own and he was like, let's just play. I want to play.
It's kind of half-ass waiting for him to pick up Elliott Gould over his shoulder and take him off set, but that didn't happen.
Well, Elliott Gould.
Yeah.
He sang the song Anything Goes from the 1934 musical of the same name, written by Cole Porter. It's whatever. He had fun doing it.
He did. I mean, he was good. It was fine. This was fine. It was very fitting, like the words of the song Anything Goes Tonight. It was kind of fun for the occasion. It kind of fit well, but I mean, it was a straight up song.
Song and dance number. Yeah. Well, he's a song and dance man. From there, I was surprised at the next bit being.
I was too.
So early in the show.
Oh.
So it's, well, I mean, being there at all, but especially like being
that early.
The first thing we see after the monologue was a repeat from episode 1, I believe.
Yeah.
Of the Academy of Better Careers. So this is the commercial about answering the phone. That's the whole shtick.
Yeah, and you can get a better career. You liked this the first time it was on.
I didn't like the commercial. There's some.
You liked it more than I did, at least I remember.
Well, I liked some stuff that Dan and Garrett were doing in the background when they were answering, like practicing answering the phone.
Yeah.
And the part where Gilda is on the phone with the guy and she hangs up. She's like, I'm going to call right now, and hangs up. And then his face pops up again on the screen and talks to her. And she's like, oh.
Yeah. I felt like I liked this one better than the first time. And maybe it's because we had talked about it and I remembered the things that you had talked about and I noticed them on this, exactly the things you just mentioned.
Yeah.
And part of me, again, probably because we haven't seen it in 20 some episodes, it felt like it might have been different to me, but I think it's just stuff I missed the first time.
No, I felt the same way.
Yeah.
It felt different, but it's not.
Like you said, this is from episode 1.
Yeah.
And it's one of the rare pre-tapes they haven't played 2 or 3 times up to this point. It's the second time we've seen it, so it actually felt a little fresh.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it because it's been so long since we'd seen it.
Yeah.
What I did mind was the first real sketch, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first sketch is a poker game hosted by Dan, who's playing... Oh, I don't have Dan's name here.
Aykroyd.
Oh, well. Yeah, he's playing Mr. Rousseau. And his servant, Garrett, is Johnny Saggy Pants.
Yes. Correct.
And he has invited a European gentleman who is a renowned poker player, and his translator, played by Elliott Gould, Mo Greenstein.
I did like the Mo Greenstein name.
Yeah.
That was my first note on this, was a laugh at Mo Greenstein.
Yeah. And then the whole sketch is just Chevy as this European guy taking money from Dan because it's his custom.
Well, he doesn't speak English, so he's speaking some type of gibberish language. And so there's some type of a cultural misunderstanding where, he basically does all these things that we would constitute as cheating.
Right.
And he plays it off through his interpreter, Mo Greenstein, as this is his culture. He doesn't know. He's so sorry. And then every time he apologizes, in order to apologize, he takes more of Dan's money.
Yes.
Dan can't figure this out. Garrett continues to get upset more and more throughout the sketch as he sees the guy ripping him off. This is one of the least enjoyable sketches I've watched this season.
Wow. One of the least enjoyable?
Yes. And I think part of it is I probably built it up because it's Chevy and Dan and Elliott Gould and Elliott Gould's first sketch, and I'm excited to see it, and I'm just watching it, and I feel like it goes nowhere. It's not that funny.
Well, it's the same joke over
and over
right?
and over.
For 8 minutes.
Is that how long? Yeah. I mean, yes. And it goes very long. Like, doesn't make a turn. It just keeps going on and on.
Yeah.
It's funny that this sketch is so bad because there's two bits to this, possible bits to the story. So when I was looking up, besides the fact that they wanted a good host, somebody they could rely on to come back, I was wondering, I was like, oh, is Elliott promoting anything? Why is he back on again?
Right.
And next month, he does have a movie coming out called Harry and Walter Go to New York. You ever hear of this?
I have not. No
one has. It is him and James Caan, and they play a couple of con men.
Oh.
Apparently the movie was a huge flop.
Okay.
So in hindsight, the sketch kind of makes sense. Because there's these two vaudevillians turned into con men. It takes place in the late 1800s when it feels like this sketch is supposed to have taken place. So I feel like that's part of it. The other part of it, I believe Chevy wrote most of this or much of this. And
that tracks.
Oh, yes. But what I had read about the story is this is Chevy writing about him versus NBC. This is in the Saturday Night Live book, this story where Chevy had written this sketch, basically kind of metaphor. Is that the right word? I don't know.
Sure.
But
yeah,
that he had written this sketch in the last few weeks about him and his position that he had with NBC in negotiating for a contract because, he hadn't been under contract for so long and they were doing this all season. And as he got more and more popular, he had more and more of an upper hand. I think it's a combination of him having this idea, this poker scheme idea, and Elliott Gould having this movie, which to everybody made the most sense to combine the two.
Okay.
Just trying to make it interesting.
Well, it didn't make it funny.
No. You know what was funny, though? The end was.
Yes.
They had two good gags at the end. One, when they finally get up to leave, and the two of them, Elliott Gould and Chevy Chase, are finally leaving, and they both grab candlesticks. And they're grabbing candlesticks on their way out. And then really, to your point, like these are when these like one-note punchlines don't work well when you have a 7-8 minute sketch, for the whole sketch, Chevy's not speaking English, doesn't understand English, has to talk through the interpreter. And at the end, Chevy looks at him, he's like, so long, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
It's a funny joke if it didn't take 8 minutes to get there.
Right.
But I don't know.
I thought you were going to say the part where Chevy's like, I want to meet your wife. And Dan's like, oh, my wife has passed away. And then Chevy, again, through the interpreters, I no longer want to meet your wife.
Goodness.
It was a long way to nothing.
Yes.
The next bit I felt was a short way to nothing. This was another PSA for the National Uvula Association. This is very much like the sketch we saw earlier this season, right?
Yeah, the Pancreas Association.
That's what it was.
Yeah, totally.
It's the same premise where Gilda's not feeling great and Lorraine says, have you ever thought it was your uvula? I've scheduled an appointment with a doctor who does house visits, and Chevy shows up. And that's the bit. I don't need to go into this. This is
again, I'm going to harken back to the idea of it's week 22, 4 out of 4 in a row, and people are tired and they're, let's rewrite this. I do like this one better, I think, than the Pancreas one. This is one, Chevy plays the doctor and he's knock, knock, who's there? Babs' uvula. I don't know Babs.
Right.
That clip was one that made the highlight reels probably for the first 25 years when they were doing anniversaries and stuff. This was one that did last for a while. And he's funny and he's got that schwarmy Cheviness of it all. I mean, I think everybody's just having fun because none of them give a shit in this sketch. They know what it is and they're just going through it and they're like, let's just race through because,
because they want to be done.
They just are like, let's do it up. Just everyone has this kind of like tongue in cheek. Can you believe we're doing this vibe throughout the whole sketch?
I couldn't believe that Elliott Gould comes back on and he still has his accent, but now he has a Southern accent. So it's not still. So all of a sudden he has an accent to introduce Leon Redbone. And again, Leon Redbone, same as before, just sitting center stage, spotlight on him with his guitar as he sings Shine On Harvest Moon. I enjoyed this. It was Leon Redbone. It's the same.
Not surprisingly, a cover.
Well, sure.
Well, that's what he does.
Song that was written in 1908.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this will be on his album that comes out the next year. But I don't know what else to say. I like the stage setup. I thought it was a really cool setup they had, which is very similar to they had with him last time. But he's by himself, like you said, and very high, very dark, with just an overhead spotlight on, which is really cool. And then as they get in closer and closer, and once they get close enough, then it kind of brightens up so you can see him fully. But he plays like the first third of the song in shadow. I mean, it's another Leon Redbone tune. If you like him, it's decent. It feels early. It did feel early in the show for this. And again, we've been talking for weeks. They constantly keep messing around with the format of when the musical numbers come in.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, it did feel a little early. But
yeah, I mean, I guess it probably was. It's only like 15 minutes into the show at this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
In watching this, I need to deep dive. I want to see what a full Leon Redbone set looks like.
Oh.
Like, I've only ever seen him do a song at a time, mostly on Saturday Night Live. I'm very interested as to what a 45-minute, 60-minute Leon Redbone set is.
Yeah, because they're not high energy.
Yeah, and he doesn't talk to the audience. Does he just sit there and stare down at the ground for an hour and play? I don't know.
Maybe.
What I'm going to do in our hiatus, dig up some Leon Redbone on YouTube. Yeah.
Well, Leon Redbone then precedes a classic sketch, right? It's one of the more classic sketches from this season.
It's one of the classic episodes of ever. For years, this was touted by many as the best sketch in SNL.
Written by our friend Michael O'Donoghue, right?
Yeah, this is one he had been working on for about a month or so. He had this idea back in April, and he had worked on, and which he's been doing in these longer pieces. You read a lot about him, and he spends, I mean, obviously it takes time to get to this, but yeah, he'd spend weeks and weeks and weeks researching. He would read books on Star Trek. He'd smoke a lot of dope, watch old episodes. And, he thought of this as his most ambitious sketch of the season. And when you watch it, I mean, it's long. It's got to be over 10 minutes, right? What's the total time on this?
It's a little over 11. Yeah.
Okay. So 11 minutes. It's an amazing set that they take apart on air. At the end of the sketch, they end up taking the set apart. It's got great costumes. It's so colorful and bright. There's so much going on. And we haven't even talked about how brilliantly written it is. So, I mean, it is a very great sketch. I love it.
It's also brilliantly acted by quite a few people in this cast. John comes on as William Shatner as Captain Kirk. And just the way he comes on, even the audience starts applauding just his mannerisms as William Shatner. And then Chevy's Spock and Dan's Scotty off camera got applause.
Yeah.
And then Dan comes on and does Bones and again gets applause for his impression. This was great. So it takes place on the Starship Enterprise. They realize that they're being followed by
the Chevy Chrysler Imperial, right?
I think that's what they said
60,
it was.
68 Chrysler Imperial.
Registered to the NBC Corporation. They keep taking shots at NBC. Like they make cookies. They take a shot at their intelligence later. And then it turns out that they can't outrun the car.
Well, because everything shuts down, right? Like everything starts failing. Yes. They can't work any of the controls anymore in the spaceship.
And then the aliens from the car board, and it's Elliott Gould and Garrett, and Elliott plays Burt Goodman from NBC and tells them they're canceling the show. Oh, it's Herb Goodman.
Yeah,
I wrote down Burt.
Yeah, Herb Goodman. I love this sketch. Sorry, this is one I know. I don't have to watch this sketch, and I can tell you everything about it.
Good, go.
Yeah, so Elliott comes on as Herb Goodman, and he walks on. He's got his sunglasses on. He's very LA, and he walks in to basically tell everybody that...
Ladies and gentlemen, due to the low Nielsen ratings, we at NBC have decided to, unfortunately, cancel Star Trek.
Fired my command.
On your way out, you can pass the cashier's desk and pick up your check.
Set Bezos is stunned. Fire.
Nothing's happening, Jim. I can't understand it.
Oh, and look, boys, you'll do me a favor and return these things to the property department, okay?
Try kill.
They're still not working, Jim. They're still not working.
Most peculiar, Captain. I can only assume that they possess some sort of weapons deactivator, in which case I shall merely render him unconscious with my famous Vulcan nerve pinch.
Of course, if it was up to me, you could keep them, give them away as souvenirs to the kids, whatever. But we're planning to market a complete line for merchandising. And we need to send them to Taiwan to be copied. It's nice material, isn't it? You can't buy. And also, yes, Nimoy, I'm sorry, we'll have to take your ears back, too.
For God's sake, man.
And eventually the cast all leaves and they acknowledge that they're getting shut down. Garrett starts taking apart the set pieces. The crew hand comes in the back. They start taking the walls off and taking everything away. And Belushi's left at the end as Captain Kirk doing one final sign off in the captain's chair.
For margarine.
They do 2 jokes on that. Yeah, there's a bit where the Herb Goodman characters, everyone's leaving and Captain Kirk is kind of going off on everyone. What are you doing? We have to fight. We have to keep going. And Herb, I think he walks off set and then he actually comes back on to say, oh, by the way, Shatner, there's a call about a margarine commercial for you in the line. And then, for Promise Margarine, which is the last line he gives at the end, which is another joke on his Promise commercials he was doing at the time.
This is great. I mean, this is like a lot of fun. The fact that Michael O'Donoghue worked on it for as long as he did shows because it is really well written, like you said. And I just love the meta part where they break down the sets. Yeah.
I mean, he totally captures the characters. I mean, I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, but I know enough to know the cliches and all of the, the tropes of the show. And he nails them so well. And it's written so well, even when they're doing the evasive maneuvers and they're trying to outrun them. And it's written in the script, the screen direction of camera tilts and the cast leans the other way. And then they go right and they lean the other way. And it's like a total play on what they did in the show. It's so good. And the performances, like you said, are great. Chevy does a really good Spock. It's like kind of understated. He doesn't overplay it until the very end, which is a great joke where by the end, after the point where Elliott Gould is taking his ears off and he just has a meltdown. He's like, I want my ears. He like runs off set crying. And then he comes back and passes the other way at one point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really good. It's funny. John is great as Shatner, and it's so hard to watch now because you've seen just Shatner become so much of a caricature. Like this is really, I think, the first impression of William Shatner's Captain Kirk, and John hits it really, really well. I mean, he nails the cadence. It's just, it's so funny. It's so funny. And you were talking about the acting before. Apparently, O'Donoghue was really worried that Belushi couldn't pull this off.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like he wouldn't have the dexterity and the range or whatnot to pull it off. And I guess he really didn't kick it all in until the live show. Like even through dress, I guess something wasn't clicking. And somewhere between dress and the live show, he really turned it up. And everybody saw the live performance and was amazed because he's so good.
Yeah, he was excellent.
Captain's log. Final entry. We have tried to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. And except for one television network, we have found intelligence everywhere in the galaxy. Live long and prosper. Promise.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good. It's a great set. Akira's back, not back, but this is his first time playing Spock, which he'll play again and again. We've seen him on camera before, but this is the first time he plays Spock. We actually saw him in the commercial earlier, in the ABC commercial. He's in it. Oh, yes. Yeah, he is. Front right. That's right. Yeah, it's just, it's just so well written. There's so many levels to it. There's so many beats. Like you said, this is an example. This was almost 12 minutes. Did not feel long at all. As opposed to the first sketch we saw, which felt 2 times as long as this. There's all these beats. You're in the episode of the Star Trek episode for a few minutes, and that all plays really well. And then they do it's a brilliant gimmick of going meta and the NBC coming in to cancel the show. So that's its own kind of little segue for a few minutes. And then you get the Herb Goodman character on there, the actual cancellation. Like just everything keeps building. Like there's never a dull moment. There's never a bad line. There's never a wasted line. Like everything in this just works. Yes. And kudos to Michael O'Donoghue for that. Yeah. This feels so different than almost everything we've seen this season. Yeah. Like it's a sign of things to come. Like the set, like looks like it's a completely different set that we've never seen. There's really cool props involved. Like I said, bright costumes. They just make it seem like something we haven't seen all season. It's a really great thing to see at the end of the show. I mean, honestly, probably the second closest or best thing I could say as far as visually different we've seen is another O'Donoghue piece, is that Citizen Kane piece. Yeah. Where we had a bunch of different sketches or different sets and, Yeah, that was the one I was going to say that it felt like it, but it was, again, O'Donoghue. There are times when he hits it out of the park, he does. And this is one of those. I mean, this is just, there's a reason why for so long this was held up as one of the best. Yeah.
No,
And even the creator of Star Trek himself, what's his name? Gene Roddenberry, like he loved this sketch. He wrote a letter to Elliott Gould being like, this sketch you did or performance you did was fantastic. This was so much fun. Because the show was it got canceled in 1968 and had been off the air. And then friend of the pod, Desi Arnaz, did you know how Star Trek got back on it? Yeah. Desilu bought the rights and started replaying them in syndication.
Yeah.
And it was a bigger success at this point in the mid 70s than it was when it went off the air.
Right. Yeah. Well, no Muppets tonight, but apparently they sent postcards to Gilda.
I mean, this is a time filler. Let's be honest here. What can we do? We got nothing. Let's pretend the Muppets sent us a letter and put Gilda out there for 2 minutes. That'll give us something.
Oh, it wasn't even 2 minutes. It was very fast that she was out there. That's why it was a weird time filler. But Gilda comes out and says the Muppets sent a postcard because they're vacationing in England, which is where they were shooting the Muppet Show. Yeah, that was it.
I was waiting for this to be an intro.
Right? I was too.
I was waiting this to be an intro to like Home Movie or Gary Weiss. Like this was so set up to be an intro and it wasn't.
No.
I was like, that was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may be like a quick filler to get to commercial.
Yeah.
And then we came back to Weekend Update. Chevy's doing his Chevy thing with the intro on the phone with whatever. And he starts off with a Castro joke, which landed for the audience.
I had the same. This was the first time in a long time that Weekend Update led off with a joke that was killer. Because it was.
Yeah.
He talks about Castro pulling out of Angola.
Pulling out. Yeah.
And a frustrated Angola could not be reached for comment.
Yes.
It's good. I mean, it is funny. And I enjoyed watching them lead off with a winner.
Yeah. And then, you had your standard political jokes about Carter and Udall and some guy and his secretary, Wayne Hayes, and his secretary.
Oh, yeah.
And then you see the woman's bare breast on the screen.
Chevy has to jump up and like cover the bare breast on the screen. It was funny.
Yeah. That was funny. And I was surprised.
Yeah.
Because you see her breast before he
for a split
covers
second.
it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were some funny jokes about Bulgaria Air, Frank Sinatra, and there was a funny Spiro Agnew joke where it's just a picture of a KKK Klansman.
Yeah, that was a little rough. Oof.
That hit too.
It was a good first half of Weekend Update. It was paced really well. Overall, I thought it was pretty funny. The audience was totally digging everything.
Yes.
Even they had the picture of Barbara Walter and Harry Reasoner, and like nobody cares. Like everybody was really into this. I enjoyed this. I thought Weekend Update was flowing. It was fun to watch.
It was good. There was no Lorraine reporter on the street because she was in our live commercial in bed with Elliott Gould. And he wants a sandwich and she doesn't want to make him one. And
doesn't he want a
Dan
salad?
comes on. Oh, that's what it was.
It's
a salad. Yes.
Because this whole thing is so absurd that, he wants a salad.
Right. He doesn't feel like chopping and cutting. And and then Dan comes on as a spokesperson in a bubble that's above their heads. And they both look up at it in bed. And he's selling the Vibramatic for women and vegetables. So it's a knife with all different attachments that could be used in a number of different ways. And that's our live commercial. It was different. It was fun.
I mean, I always say if they're going to go commercial, I love if they go live. And I thought it was great to see Dan play the Ravco guy again.
Yeah.
It's the same company
fun.
that made Bassomatic.
Yes. Yeah.
They had fun. I mean, even Elliott had fun with this.
He had a lot of fun with
I mean, you could tell even he knew how silly this was.
Yes.
At the end when he's sitting there and he's eating and he says it's good for women and men and he's trying to eat the salad in bed and she's passed out holding the thing next to her face. It's just, it's so absurd and everybody had fun with it.
Yeah, they did. And then we come back to Chevy, who does a live report from Latvia as they're preparing for the 1976 Olympics. He does a live report.
They basically come back and do a greatest hits of Weekend Update.
Yeah.
They read half a headline. He reads half a headline.
Yeah.
He makes a Muhammad Ali joke about fighting either a woman or a small child.
Yep.
And then he does a fake reporter gag in a fake voice.
As Jacqueline Carlin this time.
Of course.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. You know what? Because it's been a while since we'd seen one of these. So, yeah. And then we get Jane.
And then we get Jane as Audrey Pierce Dickman, right? giving a rebuttal. Audrey Pert Dickman. I'm sorry.
Yeah. She was one of the associate producers on the show.
Right.
After last week's Dick Ebersol mention. Or Duncan Ebersol last week, I guess. Yeah.
And she's replying, and Chevy's making faces behind her again. I'm not a big fan of these, but you know that.
You hate these, don't you?
I wouldn't say hate, but
did you like this one any better? It's been a while since we've seen one of these. Did you miss it? Like, did absence make the heart grow fonder?
No.
Okay.
I thought Jane was very good. Like, again, she holds her own in these situations.
Yeah. I mean, I like how they played the gag much more this time of her trying to catch him more often and quicker. And because it was a really great timing between the two of them. I did like that. I thought the two of them did a really good job with that.
Yeah, it was fine. Sure. And then
speaking of things you don't like.
This week's news for people who missed the headlines were news for Emily Latilla fans. So Emily Latilla comes on and Chevy says our top story tonight, and she says our flop story tonight, and then she calls him Cheddar, and that's it. How did you like this?
I liked the idea of it. I liked what they tried to do and do it in a different way. I don't know how much I like the joke itself of the flop story and Chevy explaining what, flop versus top, but I like the idea of having her do it and try it out. It was
it's different.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you got to try. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. So,
well, luckily it's not the end of our seeing Emily Latilla. And then we go to war-torn Ghana, which I was not expecting.
There's a lot I was not expecting in this sketch.
Oh, yeah? So we go to Garrett and two other guys who are not in the cast. I don't have their names.
No, I forget who they mention them at the end, but I forget who they are.
And they're talking about the impending war and how Ambassador Black was going to try to rectify things for them with the government. And then in comes Elliott Gould playing the enemy of Garrett Morris and his group, and Lorraine as Shirley Temple Black, who was the ambassador to Ghana at this time.
Was in fact the ambassador to Ghana, yeah.
Yes. She would later become the ambassador to Czechoslovakia.
Yes.
Crazy. But she's dressed as Shirley Temple from the 30s and 40s when she was a young child star. And this turns into a song and dance number with Garrett and Elliott and Lorraine singing and then tap dancing. Yeah,
there's a lot going on in this. I mean, this is basically a setup to give them a song and dance number, which, I mean, the performances are pretty good.
Yeah.
Elliott Gould plays his character well. Garrett plays his character well, which, a lot of times we will criticize Garrett for his performance, but Garrett plays him well. And Lorraine is great. Completely absurd.
Yes.
But great.
Yes.
And I'm watching it and I'm trying to figure out like what's going on because like you said, she's playing Shirley Temple, as a kid. And so she's talking, like a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old. And so I'm just like, what the hell is going on? And then all of a sudden they bust in a song. And I'm still confused. It took me a little long to realize what the hell is going to happen here. And then I'm even more embarrassed. It took me a while to realize that, a song sketch with Elliott Gould and Garrett Morris makes so much sense. Like they're both so good.
Yeah.
And Lorraine, I don't know why. This is another one. What was it was the Lily Tomlin scat.
Oh, yeah,
sketch,
yeah.
Where I was like, I'm surprised how good Lorraine, like, again, why am I surprised that Lorraine is so good? Like, she's fucking great. I shouldn't be surprised at how good she is. But they do a really, a really good song number, the three of them. And then at the end, I'm like, wait, now there's a tap dance routine? Like, this is amazing.
Yes.
Like, this is just completely fucking amazing what they're doing in this sketch.
It was really fun. Like,
this
was another one that was pretty long.
Yeah, it was.
And it didn't feel that long because it was fun.
Yeah, and most of it was song and dance where they're, between the three of them back and forth. I just, as they were nearing the end of the dance, because it was starting to feel a little long, my last note was, please just end after the song. Don't drag this out. Because the song was such a number. It was such a really well done number that I think this sketch could have just ended like, ta-da! And you would have ended on a high note. But, they tried to get a couple jokes in at the end, and they didn't completely miss, but it did take away a little bit from the performance aspect of the sketch. But 3 great performances they all did great.
Yeah, they really did. And it was fun and absurd. Well, if you were sick of outlandish performances and weird tap dancing,
don't get sick of dancing or song. Don't get singing songs, because we have a shit ton of those left tonight.
Starting with our film by Gary Weiss, which Elliott introduces and sets up as he took Gary Weiss to Charlie Lowe's School of Theatrical Arts, where Gould was a student at one point. And it's just a film. Yeah.
Apparently this is real. Don't roll your eyes.
Dude. This was such a weird thing that you were watching, where this old guy, Charlie Lowe, apparently,
is
like, and he's anyway. Charlie Lowe's definitely not with us anymore. He's in this what seems to be a
rehearsal space. It's whatever.
But it's a very small rehearsal space, and he has all of these kids lined up, and they're dancing, and then they're singing and performing, and he's performing with them, but he doesn't get off of his chair. It was just, I don't know. It was absurd. Who sends their kids to this?
Hearing you describe it, I actually like it more now. Like everything you just said, I'm like, good. Yeah, it was a fucking home run for Gary Weiss.
Right. Are we doing a Gary Weiss bar? Sure. Yeah, if we're gonna set the bar that low.
Listen, it definitely has moments. What was the guy's name again?
Charlie Lowe.
He is a character. And that's what we have said throughout this season. When Gary Weiss's films hit, he finds characters. And this dude was a character. And it was also a great use of the host. No Buck Henry, but still Elliott Gould came through. It was very fun. I like that there was that actual connection, which I think did help make this film. It didn't go too long, which Gary Weiss had been doing as of late. It didn't wear out its welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, was it great? No. But it wasn't excruciating.
No, I don't know. I guess I was hung up on like what these kids were doing, and maybe what these kids were doing was like vaudeville shtick for the most part.
Yes,
and it just felt like,
why is a 12-year-old doing vaudeville?
Yes. Why? There's the one kid who,
but that's what made it so
just
more
like Harpo Marx, and he's like doing these like and I was just like, who's sending their kids there?
But that's what made it all the more mesmerizing to watch. Like, that's why I give Gary Weiss credit. I would watch this 10 times over Taylor Mead talking about his goddamn cat. Yes.
There wasn't that much Elliott Gould in this. Like you say, there was a connection.
There was enough.
Just at the end.
There was enough. It's called a thread, Gary.
I mean, the two of them sing together at the end and then hug. That was it. And that's your thread. He's wearing the same hat that he wore in the monologue, though. That was funny to me.
Still season 1, man. They're on a budget.
I think that's just Elliott Gould's look at the time. He shaved the mustache and got
I don't know what Elliott Gould's look is at the time. Bring back the goddamn mustache, please. I don't know who this guy was this episode. I was lost. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Kudos to you, Gary Weiss.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Did you enjoy the next bit?
Totally did.
Good.
How am I not going to enjoy a sketch with Dan and John? Come on.
I don't know. The bees come on to do the Honeymooners. And so it's Dan and John and Gilda and Jane. So it opens on Gilda and Jane as Alice and Ethel.
Trixie.
Ethel's I Love Lucy, right?
Yeah. Wrong 50s sitcom, but keep going. Forget it. He's rolling.
And then they both walk off stage, and John comes on as Ralph, and then Danny comes on as Norton.
I'm sorry. Did you just forget Ralph's last name?
Cramden.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I just sorry.
The pause led me to think that you forgot. Okay.
Oh, no. Yeah, and then Dan comes on as Norton. And I mean, for me, Dan stole the bit.
Listen, all you need to say about this is they come out and do a Honeymooner sketch as the bees. And they do it brilliantly. Doesn't matter what it's about. Doesn't matter what the dialogue. They just perform the characters and they're fucking great.
Yes, they are. John's really good as Jackie Gleason.
They're all, I mean, he's great. They're all so good. Like you were saying, Dan is great. They're just, it's sad because I don't think anyone today remembers the Honeymooners to appreciate how good this performance is and like how good they are recreating that show. You know what I mean? Like they do such a great job. I was kind of surprised to see the bees. I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. It was interesting. It was a good way to do it, but I feel like we haven't seen the bees in a few weeks.
It's been a while.
You know, they were supposed to be on the Ron Nessen episode, but they weren't. I think they were on maybe the week before that.
Yeah.
But it's very similar to, you know, The Untouchables. It's a great set.
Right.
The performances are all great. Like you said, John's Gleason, and you can see him building, which is great because you know what's coming when he starts yelling at Alice.
Uh-huh.
Oh, look, get him out, will you? What am I going to say down to the guys down at the Raccoon Lodge? What are they going to think?
Why don't you tell them you swallowed a porcupine?
Hardy har har. Hardy har har. Alice, you're really funny, Alice. You're really a riot, Alice. You're gonna go places, Alice. You know where you're gonna go, Alice? To the moon, Alice.
This is another episode I feel like John is really starting to shine.
Uh-huh.
You know, this and last episode with Buck, with this whole kind of, I feel like, okay, Chevy's on the outs. Chevy's leaving. Let me fucking grab the reins and let me start showing people what I can do. Because last week he had a couple big ones. Now he's got Star Trek and this. John is really, in the last 2 episodes, starting to show what he's got.
Yeah, it's good. This was great. This was a lot of fun. This was brilliant.
Yeah, I don't know. Tom Davis had written that him and Al Franken were assigned to write this one, which is weird because it was the Bees, and I know like Rosie Schuster was writing a lot of the Bee stuff early on, so I'm not totally sure who did, but I could see it being Franken and Davis based on how well that Untouchable sketch went. You know what I mean? This is very reminiscent of the Untouchables. It's a straight send up of old school sitcom, done well, done smart. You know, the ending was a little so-so. But yeah, this is really, I so enjoyed this one.
Yeah.
I got to say, this is the best Bee sketch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Best Bee sketch we've seen. Yeah.
We got our second musical performance from Leon Redbone, and this time he's joined by
Let's just take a moment, if we may, to appreciate the comedy we've seen so far tonight.
Sure.
Because there is no more. We're just going to sing and dance our way through the episode, everybody. So that was it.
And have a repeated commercial. We have that too. So yeah. We are near the end. Starting with Leon Redbone and Jonathan Dorn, his tuba friend that we saw before with Leon Redbone, singing My Walking Stick, an Irving Berlin tune. I don't know if you can say anything about Leon Redbone other than if you enjoy Leon Redbone, you're going to enjoy this performance.
Yeah. My only note was, I mean, ... Leon Redbone. I mean, it's, it's Leon Redbone. Yeah.
We seem to like Leon Redbone. So
yeah, exactly.
Did you watch this on the DVD?
I did. And so I got Trans-American Movers rerun.
Yeah.
But when they originally aired it, they redid Show Us Your Guns.
Right.
Which is another episode 1 rerun, right? Well, that was episode 1, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
But they replayed that before as well.
Did they?
I think this is the 3rd time they've done it this season.
Oh, okay. I know they played the Movers sketch multiple times already. So what we saw on the DVD was the Middle American Movers sketch that we've seen a couple of times already, where they move your family out of the house. I don't want to rehash this. I don't really like it.
No.
Last time we saw it was on the first Buck Henry episode.
Yeah. I'm just hopeful they shoot some more pre-tapes in the off season.
Yeah.
So we get some new commercial parody pre-tapes for season 2.
When Elliott Gould came back on, I knew it was towards the end of the show, and I thought, oh, This is the end of the show. This is good nights. Because I forgot there was another musical guest.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. Because one musical guest has already done 2 songs.
Yeah.
Let's bring out someone else.
Yeah. And I completely forgot because it starts on a tight shot of Elliott Gould. And I was like, we're going into good nights. Nope. We have a performance by Harlan Collins and Joyce Everson. Heaven only knows.
This was my note because, again, I knew we were getting near the end and I wasn't sure how close we were, but my note is, I think we're done seeing comedy for the night.
Yeah.
Because, I was enjoying the show, so it was moving pretty well. So I didn't realize this was the last thing we're going to see. But so I just was like, I've seen a lot of songs recently. I have a feeling we're not going back to the comedy well tonight. I feel like, well, we'll talk about the ends. Like everyone kind of took the last half of the show off after the Shirley Temple sketch. Everyone else was like, we're done. Guys, we gave it a good run. Like, put some people out there, go sing. We'll come out for good nights.
Bees. Yeah, it was the Bees. Was
the
last
Bees.
One,
yeah.
Let's talk about this performance first.
Okay.
All right, I'm done.
It's weird. This is a weird one, and I couldn't find that much stuff out. It's a guy who was a composer, Harlan Collins, and he was signed as a recording artist, but this is a song he actually did record, but it was never released on an album. I don't know how much stuff he actually released. Never really heard much from him again. He's like a comedy writer. He writes this thing called the Today's Chuckle, which is like a one-line comedy headline thing, I guess, for newspapers that's been going on since the 40s that his father started.
Huh.
Yeah. But as far it was one of those things I'm curious, like, how did he get on the show? Like, what was his, I don't mean it in a bad way, but like, obviously this is a guy who he had no albums out, didn't have an album coming out. So like, who did he know and how did he get on? And it's a cool song. Like, it's a decent song.
Yeah, it was fine.
Just interesting of a guy who, probably never heard of and
definitely never heard of.
I think he wrote like an Olivia Newton-John song or something that year that came out. So, he's in the business, but yeah.
And then we go to our good nights where I would argue with you that we were not done with the comedy for the night because at the good nights, everyone was dressed as I was going to say cowboys, but they weren't. They were all dressed as cowgirls.
Skirts, yeah.
All the men are in wigs and skirts, as well as the women, and they sing Happy Trails. They do say we're going to be gone for a few weeks.
Yeah, it's really weird that they obviously had already announced that they were doing the summer shows.
Right.
And again, I'm sure when Elliott Gould was first booked, it was going to be the season finale. So it kind of has that finale feel, but not. At least Elliott Gould gets to sing again. Good for him, I guess. But like even the audience doesn't know what to do. They're singing the Happy Trail song and the house lights are all up and they're panning and going around the audience. Like nobody knows what to do. They're like, what's happening here?
Right.
Which is, it's a bit of a bummer. Honestly, again, as we've said many times, I think everybody was just tapped out and done. And they're just, let's just do something. And again, it's Elliott Gould who, God love him, is game for anything. So they're sure, let's put you on at the end of the night and you're going to sing Happy Trails, even though it's not the finale, but we promised you the finale when we booked you. So we'll pretend it's the finale, all of that kind of stuff, I guess. So I don't know.
I don't know. But that's it. That was our show.
Yeah.
With Elliott Gould.
Not horrible.
No.
Not a horrible show. There's some really good sketches.
Yep.
I thought Update was really good. One of the better overall updates we've had.
Agree.
But you have 3 songs, 2 pre-tape commercial reruns.
Gary Weiss film.
Gary Weiss film. Yeah. I just think everybody's tired,
Yes. But
they put on an amazing show for 22 weeks. It's like,
I was just going to say, more than 22 weeks. It's the 4th week in a row that they put on a show, right?
Right. Exactly. It's the end of the season on a 4-week stretch where in the middle of that, they were out and back to LA for the Emmys. So like everybody is just done at this point.
Yeah. No, I thought all in all, especially all things considered, but even if you take away all of that, it was a good show because the pieces that hit really hit.
Yeah, I don't feel like complained that much this episode. But even as much as we have, that first sketch is pretty bad. That poker sketch is not good. But Star Trek sketch, amazing. Bee's Honeymooner sketch, top notch. Those 2 are just great. That alone is worth watching this episode for. Again, classic weekend update. You get Leon Redbone, who's a pretty good musical guest. I'll take him anytime. You know, Elliott Gould's always a fun host. You know, it's one of those. It's like even if they do a bad job, you enjoy watching because he's so much fun to watch.
Right. And he's having fun. Again, like same thing as last show that he hosted. He's totally up for anything. He does a lot of fun things. And yeah,
he never once, like Chevy might do a sketch where you can see Chevy doesn't want to be in it, where he'll roll his eyes, look at the camera. Elliott Gould is in bed doing a commercial for a vibrator / cutting knife and is like having fun with it. Is totally loving to do it. You know, does a great song and dance number with Lorraine Newman playing Shirley Temple as the ambassador to Ghana. Like, there's just so much silly stuff in this, and he had so much fun with all of it that it's no wonder, again, that you won him at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Brad, what's your best bit?
I feel like I just said it. Yeah, Last Voyage of the Starship Enterprise and the Bee Honeymooners. I mean, those two are great. Great.
Yeah. I'm with you. I have nothing else that I can add to this. I really enjoyed the Shirley Temple dance number, but I don't think it was where's there's the best bit.
It was fun. I don't normally, like unless it's John singing, I'm usually not a huge fan.
Yeah, no, I know. We know.
But I liked it. I mean, it was really fun. Like I said, all three of them, Elliott, Garrett, and Lorraine, were all great in the roles they played.
Yes.
They all did a fantastic job.
Well, all in all, that was a fun episode.
It's a great way to almost end the season, I guess.
Almost.
I mean, we'll be back in 2 months. Is that what it is? Something like that.
Well, the cast will be back in 2 months.
We'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week. Talking about...
Oh, will we? Oh, yes.
Talking about season 1, episode 23, with host Louise Lasser and musical guest, the Preservation Hall Jazz Band.
Brace yourselves.
Until then, good night and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Good night and have a pleasant tomorrow. I'm going to edit all that out. No one needs to hear any of that.